Hello, I'm Ronnie Eldridge, and welcome to Keeping Relevant. My guest today is the election and voting rights attorney, Jerry Goldfeder. In addition to representing his own clients, he directs the Fordham Law School Voting Rights and Democracy Project, is the author and editor of Goldfeder's Modern Election Law in its 7th edition this year, and chair of the American Bar Association's Election Law Committee. And he's an old, dear friend of mine, and I'm looking forward to talking to him about the world around us. So, do you have to be a constitutional scholar in order to follow what's going on today?
No, not at all, and it's good to see you.
Thank you.
Americans know what's going on. We have a power grab by the President of the United States who doesn't respect the norms of our Constitution. It's clear. Everybody can see it. He doesn't respect the Congress. He doesn't respect the courts. He says that judicial decisions that he doesn't agree with shouldn't comply with them. It's clear what he's trying to do is to amass all this power. It's not in the nature of the American experiment for this to happen. You don't have to be a constitutional scholar. You don't have to be a lawyer. You can just see it and feel it. It's depressing, it's infuriating, and people need to mobilize.
It's so complicated, though. It seems to me he's obviously unstable. He's a narcissist who wants only to do what he wants. He wants to amass the power.
He does.
But is he really the ideologue that he's espousing? I'm not sure.
Oh, I don't know that he's an ideologue, and I'm not so sure he's unstable. He clearly wants to do what he wants to do, and he believes that he alone can fix it. He alone can control the government, and he has all these toadies all around him who are doing his bidding. We've never seen anything like it here in the United States. But the fact that he's doing this doesn't necessarily mean he's not stable. He's actually following the playbook that we've seen in other countries, in Hungary, in Poland, in Brazil, in a variety of countries around the world. And he's doing exactly what they did. Yeah. In some of these countries, people fought back and took back the country. We're not at that point yet, unfortunately.
And the appointments are so critical, I mean, especially in the court, right?
Oh, yes. He's going to appoint dozens of judges who have lifetime tenure. They will have a real impact. It's not just the Supreme Court. It's the trial courts, the district courts, and the Court of Appeals.
They're very
important. The whole
important.
federal system. It's extremely important.
Now, what is this emergency docket? And is he using that, or is the court using that more than it has used other times?
What you're really asking about is the shadow docket. People make emergency applications to the Supreme Court from time to time. That's not new. What's really new, it's not that it started under the Trump administration, but it's really been used tremendously under this administration, is an application is made to the court to stay, to freeze a particular order, or to get some relief. And the judges look at that issue, but they don't write a decision. They don't explain themselves. They just render a decision. So the term is a shadow docket because it's like what they're doing is in the shadows. We don't know why they're rendering the decision. That's not him. That's not Trump. But it is mainly his appointments.
But it's letting like an executive order stand until the order goes through a longer procedure.
Well, either an executive order or a court decision or
a lower
court decision. Either it stands or it doesn't stand. So I'll give you an example. Alabama had a redistricting fight a number of years ago, and the redrawn lines were unconstitutional. They violated various provisions of the Voting Rights Act and so on. It was declared by the trial court, the district court, that it was unconstitutional. Ultimately, the Supreme Court decided before it was really fully briefed, before the lawyers really had an opportunity to have oral argument in a full way, the court stayed the new lines that were directed and said Alabama had to have elections with the old unconstitutional lines. They didn't explain themselves. It was part of what we call the shadow docket, and it had a real impact. Here we had unconstitutional lines. The lines were redrawn, and yet the Supreme Court said, no, no, no. Even though there's been a finding, we are going to consider this, but until we consider this more thoroughly, you have to go with unconstitutional lines. It doesn't make sense. And during the Trump administration, we've seen a lot of his executive orders have been allowed to be in effect by the Supreme Court's shadow docket. They haven't explained themselves. So this is the court, the way it's presently constituted. And it's a conservative majority, but it's worse than that they're conservative. It's that that there's a majority that really believes, by their decisions, we can see it, they really believe that the president should be able to do, to get away with a lot that historically presidents have not been able to do. And this started when Mitch McConnell stole that Supreme Court seat that when President Obama wanted to nominate Merrick Garland, there was a full year before a new president would take over. Mitch McConnell, the leader of the Senate, said, oh, you can't nominate somebody in the last year. He stole that seat. It went conservative when Trump got in. And it's been a terrible situation. It's really heartening to read the dissents of Justices Sotomayor and Ketanji Brown Jackson and Elena Kagan. It's heartening, but they're dissenters for the most part now. So we have a president who's grabbing power. We have a Supreme Court and a lot of new judges throughout the federal courts that have a very distorted view of the way the government ought to work.
Are any of the questions affecting the election procedures for this coming congressional election in this situation?
Well, they will be. So, for example, California is attempting to redraw their lines in response to what Texas did. Texas is redrawing its lines, has redrawn its lines in the middle of the decade. And by the way, even though that's unusual, the Supreme Court of the United States has said that it's perfectly constitutional.
We've had it before.
Yeah, we've had it before. Texas did it in the year 2003, I think it was, and the Supreme Court of the United States says it's fine to redraw lines.
What do you think of that?
I think it's terrible.
I mean, that they've done it. What do you think of California and New York talking about,
California is doing it, and it will be challenged.
It's on the ballot, right?
It's on the ballot, and if it passes, undoubtedly it'll be challenged in the court. That goes to your question. It'll be challenged in the court, and the Supreme Court may weigh in and may strike it down. Who knows what they'll do? New York is, because of our state constitution, is attempting to change the process so we can redistrict for 2028. California's doing it for 2026, as is Texas. But 2028, that's a little late to do that. I think the governor ought to do something a little more extraordinary, which is to declare an emergency and redraw the lines now. Let them go to court. That's what you should do. That's the kind of leadership that we need.
We don't have.
We don't.
We don't have. How much leadership do we have?
Well, you look at the Democratic National Committee, which is practically broke. It seems that there's no message. We have more people enrolling as Republicans than as Democrats nationally. There's something out of kilter here when it's clear that the president is involved in a power grab, where Congress is not standing up to the president, where the courts are running roughshod over people's rights. It's clear what's happening in this country. At least it's clear to me and you, and I'm sure your viewers, but it seems as if neither the Democratic Party nor civic groups are able to grab hold of this situation and stop it and reverse it.
When did the party system, I mean...
The party system, back in the day, the political parties were very important because...
You and I come from a tradition, and I'm way ahead of you. I mean, as far as age and times back.
Are you trying to say you're a lot older than me?
Oh, I was gracious to say it first, anyway. But
so even before your time, political parties used to be the organization that helped new immigrants, that gave them turkeys on Thanksgiving, that got them jobs, and so on.
The people we opposed.
Right, the regulars.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
But the government then took over a lot of functions, social service agencies.
Right.
So political parties were not as necessary. So number one, social service.
Did the decline start during the Roosevelt administration?
It started because we had social service agencies as a result of the New Deal.
Right.
So people were able to go to the government to take care of their needs. And political parties became less important in their daily lives to get a job, to get food, et cetera, et cetera. But then what really did it is the campaign finance laws are such that tons of money have been poured into campaigns, and candidates don't necessarily need the party in order to run for office.
That's much more recent.
That's much more recent, and it's a much bigger factor. So you take somebody like a real example is Michael Bloomberg. He didn't need political party structure in order to run. But you don't need to be a millionaire or a billionaire in order to do that. We have many of our candidates who run against the party, don't need the party, raise their own money, and run for office. So the party becomes less relevant. It's much more common for people to run against the party and win, or to run without party support and win. And so the parties have become atrophied in a lot of ways. They become less relevant because people don't necessarily need the parties.
And we've also, of course, developed the social media. I remember sitting in the living room listening to President Roosevelt on the radio.
Right.
And I remember when I started in politics, as the captain of the district, I was the representative of the party and telling the voter directly. Now, we don't need any of that.
Right. I'm not old enough to have listened to Roosevelt on the radio, but I am old enough to know that one of your favorite elected officials, John Lindsay, when he first ran for office in 1965, I wore this little button that said Democrats for Lindsay, and I was assigned an election district. I didn't know what an election district was, but I went in to volunteer to the campaign office right on Flatbush Avenue, right near Brooklyn College, and I became a captain of an election district. Okay, who knew what that was? And so what I did was I went door to door in that district. I made phone calls. I sent them letters. And that's what people...
And you saw the results in the election.
I saw the results in the election.
Yeah.
Right. And actually, when you think about it, Zoran Mamdani has done something very similar to that. We have a lot of these young people, and they're not all young people, who have gone door to door on his behalf, and all of a sudden he won the primary, and it's an upset. Well, if you were paying attention to the race, you wouldn't have thought it was an upset, because there was a ground game. It's like a captain in an election district, except they didn't look at it that way. They just tried to go to as many neighborhoods as they possibly can, person to person. This is our message. It's a simple message. It's a clear message. It's a powerful message. They're enthusiastic. And because of their outreach, they were able to mobilize all these people to come out in a Democratic primary.
Have the number of people voting in primaries decreased?
Well, this year it
considerably?
increased.
This year increased.
In the mayoral
But in
election.
In
the past,
we have
it's
very
decreased.
few people voting.
That's right. That's right.
Why do you think that is?
Well, people are not inspired.
And do you think they're taught in school? I mean, do they understand civics and the concept?
I think people do understand it, but, you know, people are busy.
Just not
Lives,
interested.
it's not just a question of not interested. Lives are busy. Lives are tough. You know, putting food on the table, taking care of kids, taking care of parents, taking care of grandkids, whatever it might be. Going to one job, going to two jobs. It's
Mamdani
difficult.
is right. It's not affordable anymore.
Mamdani is right. It
Yeah.
is not affordable for many people. And so it was his mobilization of people, but it was also his message, you know. And Andrew Cuomo complained that, well, not very many people voted for him, voted in the primary, and therefore, you know, what his winning in the primary doesn't amount to much. Actually, when you think about it, the primary election for mayor, I think it was something like 30-something%. It was higher than it's been in the past. You know, when Andrew Cuomo won his primary against, when he was running for governor, against Cynthia Nixon, against Zephyr Teachout, there were 14% voted or 20% voted in both of those elections. So in this election, we had more people voting who supported Mamdani. So, you know, he was right, Cuomo was right, that he really didn't campaign that hard. And that, of course, had an impact.
It was a disaster for him.
Right.
As is the situation he's in now.
Well, so here it is in the beginning of October, and conventional wisdom and the polls we've seen, it tells us that Mamdani is going to win. But you and I know that elections are unpredictable. Events can occur that nobody knows about. Things could happen. If the election were held today, it's clear Zoran Mamdani would win. But Mark Green was supposed to win in 2001, and we were attacked on primary day on September 11th, 2001. And that, of course, changed the entire election. Now, God forbid we have any kind of an event like that, but as I say, one never knows what's going to happen in an election. We know that. And then people say, oh, the winner, it's an upset and so on. No, you have to actually kind of plan for the unexpected. And if that's done.
How do you plan? You can't.
Well, what you do is you have an infrastructure in a campaign, and you have your volunteers, and you've identified who you're going to go to try to get them out to vote, and you have a message, and you try to make sure that you control the narrative no matter what happens. It's not 100% foolproof,
right.
But if you're prepared and you're savvy and you have something to say and people are responsive, you'll win irrespective of outside events.
Right. So now the Republican strategy is to do what? Is to challenge voters at the poll, right? Require ID identification, to eliminate mail-in voting.
Well, Trump has issued an executive order.
Yeah.
He has absolutely no authority when it comes to elections. The president, the Constitution is pretty clear. It's not pretty clear. Constitution is clear that states will regulate their own elections. Congress can override that, and from time to time they have, like the Voting Rights Act, for example.
Right.
But the president has absolutely no role whatsoever. So one of the things he wants to do is eliminate mail-in voting, which is kind of stupid. It's not only suppressing the vote, but it's stupid from a Republican point of view, because a lot of Republicans use mail-in voting. And so I don't know what he's thinking. I think he just says a lot of things.
Yeah, I think so too.
And I don't know that it's all that clear. That doesn't make him not stable. It just makes him I don't know.
Well, I think he's not. We disagree on that. But anyway,
Okay.
the kind of vote that we had in the election, the ranked choice voting, I thought that the aim of that was to come up with a consensus. But we didn't come up with a consensus.
Why do you say that?
Well, because we have the primaries. I mean, the election, the opposition still.
Well,
I would have thought it meant that you came up, you didn't have any opposition.
Well, listen.
But that was wrong.
You can never not have opposition.
Elimination.
When you have a candidate who wins a primary by 12%,
Yeah.
Mamdani won over Cuomo by 12%.
12%. Yeah.
That's as good a consensus
Right.
as one can get.
Right.
You know, you always have opposition. You have candidates who get their votes, and so on, other candidates, and so on. But that's something.
Yeah.
And I think what we'll see is an overwhelming victory by the Democratic nominee.
And you
Zoran.
like the ranked choice voting?
Yeah, I think the ranked choice voting is good. We saw that it had an impact in the mayoral election. I think Zoran Mamdani would have won even without Brad Lander cross-endorsing him. But we also saw that, but it did help. And we saw that in city council races. And their candidates were disincentivized from attacking each other because they wanted their votes, their number 2 votes. And so I think it's a good thing.
What about the movement now to eliminate the party, where the 2 top vote
Oh,
getters?
that's not on the ballot.
No, I know, but what do you think of that?
Well, I think it's worked in California, it's worked in Alaska, it's worked in certain municipalities around the country. You can run and have just the top 2 or the top 4 advance to the next election.
That's really the end of parties.
Well, no, because you identify yourself.
Yeah.
So, for example, in California, so Adam Schiff became the United States Senator, but in the first round, it had a D next to his name, or Democrat next to his name. So people knew what party he was associated with, as well as their opponents. So it's a kind of reform that allows more of a consensus result.
Let me just ask you 2 quick questions.
I told her I was going to do that.
Do you think we should move the elections the interim elections to the presidential year? That's on the ballot, one of the charter, proposals.
I'm not sure about that. I have mixed feelings about having the municipal elections at the same time
I
as
think that would
federal
be,
and state elections.
We'll get lost. We don't have any communication anymore.
Well, that's one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is it increases turnout.
Right.
But even if it passes, there's a ballot proposal for it from the Charter Commission, so it's on the ballot in November. But even if it passes, it doesn't matter because we need to change the state constitution to do that. So this vote is kind of like an advisory vote.
Were you proud of the Board of Elections when it rejected the attempt to have it override to eliminate the charter proposals?
I'm neither proud or not proud of the Board of Elections.
Nothing
I know I have to
surprises
say
you.
that I have represented the Board of Elections, and generally they do a pretty good job.
But they have a specific job.
They do have a specific job, but I'm not so sure that they couldn't have if they found the wording was deficient.
Right.
I'm not so sure that they couldn't have rejected it.
What do you think of the charter proposals?
I personally, I'm not sure that it's the best way of going. There's a role that the city council has with regard to development issues in various communities, and I don't think that it should be taken away. It could be modified in order to allow more affordable housing to be built more quickly, but I think the council has a role, and
this is really aimed at diminishing it.
It is. So I'm not so sure that it's the best way of speeding up the building of affordable housing.
It's amazing, though, that you're interesting because
I'm interesting.
you're very interesting. your field of knowledge is so complete. But you also have a balanced approach.
I try to.
Yeah.
I try to.
That's why I like talking to you about. And I've changed my message. I want my children, my grandchildren now by the time I'm writing now, everybody's gotten so old. I want them to understand the joy of public service and the need for it in the world. I mean, if we don't care about the people next door, and if we don't want to make people's lives better, there is no hope for the future. We've lost this sense. I mean, we've got so many things that you'll have to come back and we have to talk about. The polarization in the country, the urban centers, how we differ from this, you know, this drive to make so much money, this reverence for money. Anyway, thank you very much, Jerry.
It's always good talking to you.
Okay. CUNY TV now has an app. Downloading the app will let you watch any show, including mine, at your convenience.